Leclerc's F1 nightmare continues with the crash in FP2, Mercedes on the back foot after a slow Friday session, and Red Bull looking strong for the rest of the weekend. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get straight into the latest F1 news. Charles Leclerc admitted he thought the damage to his Ferrari would be much bigger than it was after crashing out of FP2 in Hungary on Friday. Leclerc hit the inside wall on the exit of the high-speed Turn 4 at the Hungaroring after catching the curb and being sent into a spin, the weight of the impact setting off the sensor that required the medical car to be deployed, though he reported immediately that he was okay. The impact for the Ferrari driver brought out the red flags for 15 of the 60 minutes of FP2 as the drivers waited for the barriers to be repaired, with Leclerc having torn advertising hoardings as part of his collision among further barrier work. But despite the high-speed nature of his crash, the Monegasque driver revealed that the impact left him without as much damage as he had first feared, even though it cost him the rest of his session, which he will hope to make up in third practice on Saturday. "Well, when I lost it, I thought the damage would be much bigger," Leclerc said after the session. "The damage is not that big, but obviously it's enough for us to not continue the session, and that's never what you want. What happened is that I ran a bit wide on the curb, I got a snap in the middle of Turn 4, got a bit wide on the curb, and then lost the car on the curb." F1 2024. Head-to-head qualifying records between teammates. "So it was my mistake, but now it's all about bouncing back tomorrow. The car was pretty good. The feeling is getting a little bit better. We had more of a consistent day compared to the last 3 or 4 weekends, so that's positive. Unfortunately, with the mistake, the mileage was cut short, but hopefully we'll recover that in FP3 tomorrow." With Ferrari having brought an upgraded floor to the Hungaroring this weekend, as they look for a way back to challenging at the front of the field. Leclerc ranked third in FP1 while teammate Carlos Sainz topped the session, and when asked if their apparently improvements were a sign of what is to come, Leclerc was quick to temper expectations. "I wouldn't get carried away too quickly, but the feeling is good," he responded. "I think we are still quite a bit behind McLaren. McLaren seemed to be super strong this weekend. However, as I said, the feeling is good, and that's always a good sign. Now we've got to put everything together tomorrow, and I'm hopeful it will be done." Despite its ongoing improvements and upgrades, Mercedes' W15 is still struggling with hot conditions at the Hungarian Grand Prix, leaving Lewis Hamilton to state that the car is just as bad as it was at the start of the season. Air temperatures crested 30 degrees Celsius at the Hungaroring, and track temps were even hotter. For Mercedes, that meant a return to the heatwave struggles that have been plaguing its W15 since the start of 2024. Speaking to Lawrence Barretto after FP2, Lewis Hamilton acknowledged that for all of the upgrades to his W15, the machine still isn't fully equipped to handle high temps. "It felt just as bad as it normally does when it's hot," Hamilton said. In the start of his interview, Hamilton mentioned the hot temperatures several times before saying, "The car just hasn't felt good setup-wise, but I think we have an idea why. We'll just work overnight, but not the best so far." Barretto asked how Mercedes had approached its alterations between practice sessions, and Hamilton admitted the team had opted for little tweaks. "But the car was pretty much the same," Hamilton said. "And there's a particular thing that we left that we changed into this weekend that we probably need to go back on." He did not elaborate on what exactly that change was. "But yeah, it's all relatively close otherwise. We couldn't do the pace of the other guys today, but the long-run pace was pretty decent at the end." That being said, it's not completely grim for the Mercedes squad. Hamilton finished 10th in FP1 and improved to 7th in FP2, while teammate George Russell finished 4th and 5th. The results will likely make for a challenging qualifying session on Saturday, but Hamilton's statements imply some confidence that the team will, at the very least, be able to hold its own in the race. In the Friday Hungarian GP press conference, Mercedes' trackside engineering director Andrew Shovlin said, "A win this weekend will be a long shot. The thing where we've still got the kind of question mark on performance is rear-limited circuits in hot conditions," he elaborated. "It's going to be very hot on Sunday, so that's what we're working on. But I wouldn't put us as favorites here." However, he was confident that Mercedes could use the Hungarian Grand Prix as an opportunity to begin rectifying the issues so that they'll be less problematic at hot tracks in the near future. Christian Horner has revealed how he had a heart-to-heart conversation with Sergio Perez as the Mexican driver aims to bounce back from a difficult series of races. The 2023 championship runner-up has endured a very difficult second quarter of 2024, scoring just 15 points in 6 weekends to plummet down the order in the Drivers' Championship. Perez is heading into a critical doubleheader of races as he aims to stave off the possibility of Red Bull being able to trigger a contract exit clause that could allow them to swap him out for another driver. Liam Lawson being currently at the head of the queue following his successful filming day last week. With Red Bull's first priority before that scenario being to give Perez every chance to rediscover the form that has made him a potent teammate for Max Verstappen on many occasions over their 4-year tenure together, Perez produced a strong Friday in Hungary to finish the day 4th quickest. The Red Bull RB20 has been fitted with significant upgrades, all of which have been fitted to Verstappen's car, while Perez is missing some of the new components as the factory could only produce enough parts for one complete package as Red Bull brought the upgrades along before the summer break. Speaking to Sky F1 after Friday's running, in which Red Bull finished 2nd and 4th with Verstappen and Perez, respectively, team boss Christian Horner explained the differences between the cars. "It's been a positive Friday," he said. "I would say probably Checo's Perez best Friday since possibly China. The cars are working well. There's a slight difference between the cars. Both of them have upgrades, and the only bit that Checo is missing is the engine cover and side pod element, but the floor, the wing, and the rest of it are the same between the two. So we've got some great data." With the upgrades appearing to hit the spot as Verstappen finished the day a quarter of a second from the front, but having used medium tires to set his quickest time, pace setter Lando Norris having used the softs, Horner said Perez appears to have found confidence from the improved feeling of the car. "The car is working quite well, and when the car works well, you see that gap diminish between the two of them, and hopefully he'll have taken quite a bit of confidence out of that," he said. "I think the car has been performing, but it's been on a bit of a knife's edge, and we've seen Max just cope with that a little better than Checo certainly has. Hopefully, with the steps that we've made here, we've got the car in quite a nice window." On Thursday, Verstappen revealed that he has found the natural good feeling he had from the RB20 has got away from him, as the team has had to chase more knife-edge configurations to try to keep ahead of their rivals. And Horner said the team very much needs Perez to rediscover his form in order to more capably back Verstappen in his quest for another title, and as Red Bull target another Constructors' Championship. "We all want Checo to realize the potential that he did in the first 4 or 5 races, and we know he's capable of that. That's why we took up the option early on him for next year to try and settle him," he said, referring to the team recently re-signing Perez on a new 2-year deal. "I think he's been in a bit of a headspin the last few races, but hopefully today were the signs that he's coming out of that, and the team are working very hard with him to support him and make sure that he does refine his form because we desperately need it." Asked to address the speculation regarding Perez's contract and the prospect of a possible swap, Horner revealed he and Perez had a proper conversation away from the stresses of the racetrack as the Mexican driver visited Horner's home. Perez has been in the UK following Silverstone in order to take part in Red Bull's anniversary celebrations last weekend at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. "We have a really open relationship," Horner said. "I sat down with him in the kitchen at my house and said, 'Come on, what's going on? Is there something else?' And he was like, 'No, I think I'm just overthinking things a bit too much.' I think almost ignoring what's going on the other side of the garage will do him a favor, which is the approach that he's taking now, just focusing on his own performance." McLaren team principal Andrea Stella is surprised over how a brake drum hole escalated to become a major Formula One paddock talking point after Red Bull allegedly raised the alarm. German publication Auto Motor and Sport reported that Red Bull had spotted a brake drum hole on the McLaren MCL38, which needs to be covered after practice to comply with the regulations. But McLaren and another team had not recovered them at recent races. The holes were said to have been recovered by tape at the Austria and British rounds, Stella confirming to Sky F1 that McLaren turned to that tactic, while also validating talk that the FIA had been in touch to clarify that the holes needed covering, with Red Bull reportedly having alerted the governing body, fearing an extra cooling mechanism was being created against the regulations. Stella clarified that it is simply a sensor hole and is surprised that such a big deal was made about it. "Actually, this matter is very simple," he said. "This is a hole to access a sensor, and we got the clarification from the FIA that this hole is not allowed, and we just taped it. It's a very, very simple matter which for some reason seems to have escalated to become a topic in the paddock. But nothing of that kind. This was not the only drama facing McLaren in Hungary, with a storm ahead of the race weekend inflicting further damage on their motorhome, blowing the roof off. It was back at the Spanish Grand Prix that an electrical fire broke out. Stella was keen to praise those responsible for building and maintaining the motorhome for their efforts as he discussed the extent of the disruption, revealing that, ironically, the kitchen was the one area not impacted this time around. Well, firstly, it's disruptive for all the people that built the motorhome, maintains the motorhome, said Stella. I just want to thank all these people that do this hard work, which sometimes passes unnoticed. Instead, there's a lot of workers that do hard work to be here in condition to enjoy our race weekend. In terms of disruption, that's mainly the fact that we needed to relocate our guests, but hopefully with still a positive experience. And for the team, in terms of consuming our meals, we'll have to use our offices and the garage, but nothing that we are not ready for, like it's all good. It's just a shame that we have to keep working on the hospitality. You know what, this time the main thing that wasn't affected was exactly the kitchen. We can get some good food, but we'll have to consume it inside the garage. McLaren sit P3 in the Constructors' Championship ahead of the Hungarian GP, 78 points behind leaders Red Bull. Red Bull's chief engineer Paul Monahan believes the team can extract more pace from the RB20, as a major upgrade package has been rolled out. With Red Bull having been caught by rival teams through the second quarter of the 2024 championship, the world champions have rolled out a significant upgrade package for the RB20 in Hungary. The FIA confirmed the tweaked parts on Friday morning, as submitted by the team, with chief engineer Paul Monahan revealing what has been changed on the RB20 when he spoke to media ahead of first practice. There are some subtle geometry changes on the front wing, a little bit on the front suspension and the side pods, he said. The floor edge is unchanged, and there's a little bit of work around the rear wheel bodywork. We will see, won't we, because it doesn't matter what it looks like. On Thursday, Max Verstappen had revealed his hopes that Red Bull can unlock more performance from the RB20 after enjoying the natural feel of the car at the start of the year, a feeling that has slipped away as the team has had to be more knife-edge with its configurations in a bid to stay ahead of the likes of McLaren and Mercedes have closed the gap. I think it's just the way we set up the car, maybe also what we get back from the simulator. All these kinds of things need to be probably a bit better, he said, when asked about how things had changed through the second quarter of the season. Plus, we just need more performance because, naturally, if you have a car that has better performance, it becomes a better car to drive as well because you don't need to push it over or close to the limit. If you look at it realistically, other teams have made bigger steps. That's very clear. But I know that my team is pushing as hard as they can to find performance. Red Bull has split car configuration for the Hungarian weekend, with Sergio Perez running the older spec parts while Verstappen goes hell for leather with the upgraded components. The factory has managed to get the parts manufactured and ready for the car earlier than initially expected, as they had been earmarked for after the summer break. Asked about how demanding Verstappen has been in his feedback towards the team in recent races, Monahan answered matter-of-factly, "He wants to win the race, I dare say, which really we'll find out on Sunday afternoon. So we've done a lot of work in the last few months to try and see if we can extract a bit more from it. We think we've got some ways to do that. We will find out." But while Verstappen has said the feeling he's had from the RB20 has slipped away somewhat as the season has progressed, Monahan said Red Bull are still happy the RB20 is a strong all-rounder and that both Verstappen and Perez have the tools to be able to bring home strong results. The opposition, everyone is getting a bit closer. McLaren and Mercedes are similar, quicker, slightly slower than us depending on circumstance, he said. So the strengths of the car as they were, it's still a well-balanced car and it achieves lap time on most types of circuits. Max is typically demanding of us. I think he places the same against himself. With Checo Perez, we're doing all that we can to help him. There's no doubt about that. He's won races with us. So we just need to help him recover his confidence and belief. I'm sure he can fly again. We're all part of the same team and we want the best for everyone in it. We will do our utmost to give them what they need. In terms of their feedback, good, constructive, and helpful. It's never negative, it's always constructive criticism. Just take it on the chin and move on. Red Bull's technical director, Pierre Vache, appearing in Friday's press conference, said the first display of seeing the car on track in the practice session had not set off any alarm bells as Verstappen finished second, having set his best time on aging soft tires. I think it is a long process to learn about the package for sure, he said. FP1 should not be enough to make a conclusion, but we've learned that it is going in the right direction at the moment. We didn't see any black flags on the package. That is already a good aspect, and we will continue to learn. Asked about how Red Bull is approaching the theoretical limit of the current regulations in the third year of the rules, Vacha dismissed the notion that the team is bouncing off the theoretical glass ceiling of the rulebook. We still have a capacity to develop the car, otherwise we would not bring the update, he said. Clearly, the fact that others are closer and closer, it's a big aspect that we are pushing even more to bring updates quicker. The performance is not only coming from the overall downforce gain, it is also coming from how the driver is able to extract it and how it affects the balance. We are pushing also in this area. That is a big part of it, and we still have some room for improvement in this aspect. A high-pressure effort to set a fast lap at the end of free practice 2 before the Hungarian Grand Prix saw V-Carb driver Yuki Tsunoda snap at his engineer multiple times. While the initial message before the lap was broadcast internationally, Tsunoda's post-lap response only transmitted to F1 TV viewers, and it was packed with emotion. Free practice 2. Ahead of the Hungarian Grand Prix turned into something of a sprint thanks to a red flag brought out for Charles Leclerc's crash in turn 4. As a result, drivers swapped to soft tires in order to put a few push laps on the board and simulate qualifying pace for Saturday. However, the added pressure saw V-Carb driver Yuki Tsunoda in a snappy mood as the team instructed him to speed up near the end of the session. Mattia Spini, Tsunoda's race engineer, came on the radio to urge, let's go, charge off." "Okay, don't rush me," Tsunoda snapped back soon after. The Japanese racer then set off for his fast lap, but unfortunately, it wasn't to be a quick one. Tsunoda finished the session in 19th position. After his lap, F1 TV shared an exclusive radio message between Tsunoda and his engineer, showing their reactions to the lap. "I think you should just let me," Tsunoda snapped. Spini replied, "Yuki, we're just trying to help." Tsunoda's response was sarcastic. "Thanks for the help." This isn't the first time we've heard a frustrated radio message from Yuki Tsunoda. The V-Carb driver has been regularly criticized for his temper. In 2022, Helmut Marko referred to Tsunoda as a problem child and instructed him to see a therapist. Earlier this season, during qualifying for the Austrian Grand Prix, Tsunoda was slapped with a hefty fine for using an ableist slur on the radio. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow.